The day she handed me the ultrasound, I should have felt joy. I should have smiled, pulled her into my arms, and felt that surge of awe that comes with realizing you're going to be a father. But I didn't. I felt cold. Not because I didn't want to be a dad, but because I already knew. Deep down, without needing a single DNA test or confirmation, I knew that child wasn't mine. And my wife, the woman I had trusted with everything, stood in front of me, holding a lie wrapped in hope, hoping I would hold it too. We'd been married for 5 years. I'm the quiet type, steady job, simple life, loyal to the bone. She was the energetic one, social, always surrounded by people, and I loved that about her until I started noticing the late night texts, the sudden weekend girls' trips that didn't add up. The way she stopped looking me in the eye when I said I love you. I asked once, early on, if there was someone else. She cried, called me insecure, said I was projecting. I believed her. I wanted to believe her so badly, but then came the pregnancy. A month after a 2-week trip I hadn't been invited to. We hadn't been intimate in nearly 2 months, and suddenly she was glowing, beaming, acting like this baby was going to fix everything. I did the math. I remembered the distance. I felt the knot in my stomach. And I asked again, "Are you sure this is mine?" She broke down crying again. But this time, there was no anger, no yelling, just silence and tears. That told me everything I needed to know. When the baby was born, she begged me to sign the birth certificate. Told me we could move forward, that love makes a family, that I could raise him as my own. I looked down at that baby, innocent, unaware, tiny fingers curled into fists, and I felt nothing but sorrow. Not for him, for me, for the man I had been, for the dream that had died. I put the pen down, looked her in the eyes and said, "No, I won't sign something built on betrayal," and then I left. That choice detonated everything. She told her family, I told mine. She twisted the story into one of abandonment, said I was refusing to be a man, that I couldn't handle fatherhood. My mother, being the peacekeeper she's always been, called me the next day, said I needed to think about the child, that I was being selfish, that sometimes raising a child is more about the heart than the blood. I asked her if she'd say the same thing, if dad had brought home a child from another woman. She went quiet, but the pressure didn't stop. Friends called, family came over. I had people crying in my living room, begging me to see reason, telling me that all relationships have flaws, that I could still save the marriage. My mother even offered to pay for counseling, said she'd babysit, said she would help raise the child if I just gave it a chance. I felt like I was the villain for protecting my own heart, like my boundaries were the problem, not the betrayal, not the lies, me. So I packed up, moved out of the city, filed for divorce, blocked her number, went no contact with nearly everyone except my father and 2 close friends who actually understood what loyalty meant. I started over, got a new job, new apartment, threw myself into fitness, therapy, solitude, and slowly I healed. I didn't date. I didn't chase distractions. I rebuilt the version of myself that she had slowly eroded with every lie she told. Years passed. 3, to be exact. I didn't keep tabs on her, didn't ask mutual friends. I lived my life quiet and clean. Until last week, when my mother, whom I had slowly started speaking to again, called me with a trembling voice and said, "Can we meet? It's about your ex-wife and the boy." I felt that old knot in my stomach tighten again. I didn't want to care, but something in her voice told me I needed to. We met at a small cafe near her church. She looked different, tired, like someone who had finally seen the cost of her own blindness. She didn't make small talk, just looked at me with misty eyes and said, "She's gone. She died." I blinked. Didn't register it at first. Car accident. 2 nights ago, she was on her way to a night shift, fell asleep at the wheel. It was instant. I didn't speak, just sat there, letting the words settle into the cold parts of my heart. Then she said the part I wasn't ready for. She left a letter for you, and she named you as the boy's guardian. My world tilted. I felt the air leave the room. Guardian, the child that wasn't mine, the child she built from a lie. The boy I refused to sign for now stood alone, without a mother, and apparently, with me as his only legal protection. I stared at my mother like she had just told me the sky was falling. My first instinct was disbelief, denial. There had to be someone else, someone more logical. a godparent, a family member, anyone but me. But she shook her head, placed a manila envelope on the table, and slid it across. This has the will, the documents, her letter. She made it official just months ago. I opened the envelope with shaking hands, not because I wanted to, but because I knew I had no choice. Inside was a notarized will naming me as the guardian of her son, not our son. There was no mention of Nick, the man she cheated with, no mention of any biological father, just me. My name, written clearly, next to a clause that said, in the event of my death, I want my son to be raised by the only man who ever truly loved me, even when I didn't deserve it. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't even angry yet, just hollow. My mom said nothing while I read it. She let me sit in the shock of it. Then she whispered, he's in the system now, temporarily, but unless you come forward, he'll go to a foster home. I felt like vomiting. How the hell was I supposed to process this? I wasn't this child's father. I didn't choose him. I didn't create him. I didn't get a say when he was born. I got betrayed into his existence. And now I was being asked to rescue him. The part that broke me wasn't the legal obligation. It was the letter. The one she wrote me. It wasn't long, just a single page. In it, she admitted everything. Said she'd spent the last 3 years regretting her choices, that she was ashamed, that she knew she had destroyed something beautiful, and that she didn't expect forgiveness. But what she begged for was mercy, for her son. He's innocent, she wrote. He doesn't know what I did. Please don't punish him for my sins. I read that sentence again and again until the words blurred. I wanted to hate her. I should have hated her. But instead, all I could think about was a 3-year-old boy who had just lost his mother, who probably didn't understand why strangers were taking him away, who had no idea the man she named in that document once stood in a hospital room and refused to claim him because he had every reason to walk away. My mother sat there quietly, waiting for a reaction. Maybe she thought I would break down, or get up and storm off, but I did neither. I just asked one question, why me? And she answered without hesitation, because she knew, even after all she did, you were the only man who could look past the pain and still do the right thing. Because you're your father's son. That sentence hit me like a freight train, not because it was praise, but because it was pressure. I went home and didn't sleep. I laid on my couch for hours, staring at the ceiling, trying to calculate the weight of this decision. I thought about what it would mean to take him in, to feed him, raise him, teach him to read. I also thought about the looks I'd get, the gossip, the emotional landmines. Would I see her face in his? Would I resent him every time he smiled? Could I love a child who was born from a wound that still hadn't fully closed? The next day, I went to the foster facility just to see him. That's what I told myself. Just look, don't decide yet. I walked in, gave my name, and they led me to a small playroom where he was building a tower out of wooden blocks. He looked up, curious, cautious, not scared, just wondering who I was. The social worker said, he doesn't know much, just that mommy isn't coming home. My heart shattered in my chest. He looked like her, the eyes, the mouth, but there was something else there too. Something quiet, wounded. As if even at 3, he understood something fundamental had been taken from him. He didn't run to me, didn't say a word. He just watched. And I watched him. 2 souls sitting in the wreckage of one woman's terrible choice. And for a moment, neither of us moved. Then he picked up a block and offered it to me, just like that. No words, no expectations. Just a child, doing the only thing he knew, offering something in a world that had taken so much. I took the block with shaking hands, knelt beside him, and said, I'm just visiting today, okay? He nodded, like he understood, like he'd heard that line before. And something inside me twisted so tightly, I thought I might collapse right there on the floor. I left that day without making a decision. I told the caseworker I needed time, but I already knew the truth. The boy's face haunted me that night, not because of guilt, not even because of her, but because of him. He didn't ask for any of this. He didn't create the betrayal. He didn't lie, cheat, or manipulate. He was just born into chaos, into silence, into a world where the one man who could have been his anchor had every reason to walk away. And still, that little hand offering me a block stuck with me like a wound that didn't bleed. Over the next few days, I spoke to lawyers, social workers, therapists. I even called my father, asked him what he would have done. He was quiet for a long time, then said, "There's no right choice, son, only the one you can live with." That sentence played in my head over and over. What can I live with? Can I live with knowing I left a child behind because of pain someone else caused? Can I live with the shadow of her mistakes looming over him and doing nothing? I went back the following week. This time, I brought a stuffed animal and a small bag of snacks. I didn't know what he liked, didn't even know his favorite color, but I sat with him, played with him, asked him questions. He didn't talk much, but he listened, watched, trusted me a little more. The third time I visited, he reached for my hand when I stood to leave, and that was it. That moment cracked something wide open in me. I filed the paperwork the next day. The process wasn't easy. There were evaluations, background checks, court hearings. People asked me if I was sure, if I understood the emotional toll, if I was prepared to raise a child who would forever be tied to the worst heartbreak of my life. I said yes, not because I was sure, but because he deserved someone who wouldn't leave, even if the world gave him every reason to believe they would. I brought him home 2 months later. The house was quiet at first, awkward, like we were both learning how to breathe the same air. I gave him space, let him pick his own toys, let him cry when he needed to, and slowly that silence turned into routines. Breakfast together, bedtime stories, accidental laughter. One night, he called me dad in a whisper so soft I almost missed it. I didn't correct him. That night, I wept in the hallway, long after he'd fallen asleep. It's been a year now. He's thriving, reading, running, laughing like he was born for joy. And me, I still carry the pain. It's a shadow that walks beside me, but it doesn't consume me anymore. I don't see her when I look at him. I see him, just him. A boy who needed someone, a boy I chose, and in choosing him, I didn't lose myself. I found something I didn't even know I was missing. My mother still visits. She's quieter now, more respectful of boundaries. She apologized once, not for pushing me back then, but for not understanding what I was protecting when I said no. "You weren't just walking away from a lie," she said. "You were trying to keep your heart whole." I didn't see it. I do now. Sometimes people ask me if I ever forgave my ex-wife. I don't have an answer for that. Maybe I forgave the part of her that was broken. Maybe I never will. But I know this. I honored the only part of her that was ever truly innocent. Her son, our son, now. To anyone reading this, if you've been betrayed in a way that shattered your identity and someone expects you to clean up the wreckage, don't rush to be noble. Protect your soul first. Heal. And then, if you choose to love again, whether it's a partner, a child, a friend, let it be your decision, not your burden. I refused to sign that birth certificate once. Now, his drawings hang on my fridge. His laughter echoes in my hallway. His tiny hand reaches for mine every morning. And I sign his lunchbox every day with love, Dad.